What's up, everyone? It's Matt Mrozik, and this will be a work in progress series on my first full build Predator kit. I recently just got done doing my very first Predator paint job, which was a 1:1 scale Hunter Predator bust from a company called Cool Props. Very first time ever working on a Predator. It was a repaint / touch up, which was challenging, but turned out really nice in the end. So this is my first full Predator kit, and this is the Shadow Elixir. This is sculpted by Narin, produced by Narin, and sold by Narin. I'm not the sculptor, I'm not the producer, I didn't print this, there's no STL file available, so don't ask those questions, because the answer is no on all of it. So, Narin kit. I've done, as anyone who follows me knows, I've done the Hellboy like 9 times, so I'm familiar with Narin kits. Very high quality. He's a fantastic sculptor. He's a traditional sculptor, so this was not a 3D file that was 3D printed and then cast and molded. This was sculpted by hand, and then molds were made and castings were made. So this is for the same client that I did the Wolverine Samurai for, a bunch of stuff. I've done a bunch of stuff for this guy, and actually I think I've got like 12 or 15 pieces in my queue for him. Actually, he's like he's like the most of my work this year. So thank you to him for sending me so much work, because I'll be able to pay my bills. Thanks to him. So anyway, this will be a work in progress video series, because I haven't done a while. Last series I did was on the Samurai Wolverine, because that was a very cool piece, and I was really looking forward to doing it. That was a long project. This one, I'm not sure how long it's going to take me. I'm kind of anticipating a week to a week and a half. Being a kid, I have to build it first, do all the prep work, and then move on to painting. So I'll put a link down below to Narin's Facebook page. I'm not sure if his website's still active or not. It's been a while since I've bought anything from Narin. But anyway, this is the Shadow Elixir. This, I guess this is like his own creation Predator. I don't know if there's one of these like in the movies or not, but it's a very cool dynamic piece. It's kind of like a samurai Predator. My client did send me some reference photos of a paint that's really, really cool. I really like the color palette. It's a little less traditional than what you normally see on a Predator, so it's really nice. So again, I don't want to copy someone's paint job, but it's really cool. So I'm gonna kind of use it. He's like, do your thing. This client's really cool. He's like, just do your thing. He kind of lets me do my stuff, and like he gets the best work out of me from there. So this first work in progress video is basically I'm going to be doing some pinning, adding some magnets and stuff, because the way this comes to you is all these pieces. You got to put it together, you got to paint it, and then you have to be able to ship it. So when doing a piece like this, you kind of have to look at it. Okay, so what can I pin and glue together and ship safely, and what should be able to be taken apart and put together by the client. So just my initial thought on this piece is I think I'm going to magnetize the arms. There's going to be a lot of magnets in this piece. The big part are the dreads, because they fly out. As you can see, they kind of fly out towards his back here. And those have got to be able to be removable, because if I try to ship that with those on, they would just get destroyed. If the head came off, which I kind of wish it did, I kind of wish the head was separate, I might be able to ship that as one piece, but I don't think so. So I'm going to have to figure out where all the dreads go, because they're not numbered, or you have to figure it out. I'm going to have to pin them all individually, and then after done painting, I'm going to have to like do a color code, like maybe put a dot of red paint or something. You know, I'll figure it out a way so that my client gets it, he can easily put them back in and know where they go. So today's goal is to get as much kind of magnetizing done and pinning done. I'm anticipating 2 to 2.5 days of just magnetizing prep and stuff like that, getting them all together. Because there's no primer. I'm looking at this, and it looks like the mold line is cleaned up pretty good. I can see a little bit here. But until you get primer on it, that's really when you can see when you got any cleanup. But Narin kits, for the most part, are very, very good, especially for a traditionally sculpted kit. The fit is exceptional. Like this piece goes together, and there's like, I don't see a reason to do any like gap filling. Many times on something like this, I'd have to go in and kind of rekey or do some gap filling, but this fits really, really well. So I think my initial thought is that I'll ship him. I'll pin and glue the legs on since that's like his main support. And he comes up on the base like this. The base is fairly simple. And you can see there's some gaps here until, yeah, so I think that's got to be pinned and epoxied. And then yeah, there might be some slight alignment. Once I get them on the base, there might be some, oh, it's looking pretty good. So I'll get the legs pinned, get those situated, and then I'll probably magnetize the feet onto the base. I think he's pretty stable, but anyway, his kits are heavy. He uses a very heavy resin. It's a brittle resin, unfortunately. So you gotta be careful. Yeah, he'll be fine there. Come down a little bit. So yeah, Narin uses I'm not sure what kind of resin he uses, but it's kind of brittle. I wish he'd use a softer resin. But yeah, so today, let's see. So I think the first thing I'm gonna do is get the legs pinned and kind of get the feet magnetized. I guess just, I meant to go buy some more magnets. I'm kind of low. I'm actually really low. I've got a ton of these little small magnets. What size are these? I think these are 1/4 inch, which will be perfect for the skirts and things like that. It's been a while since I bought magnets. I can get the 1/2 inch magnets at my local hobby store. So that's what I do, just because it's convenient. It's close. It's not the cheapest way to do it, but yeah, these are 1/4 inch. So I can use these small 1/4 inch magnets for the skirts. I don't think, is that too big for the arm? I'd like to use 1/4 inch on the arms, but the problem is, yeah, it's too big. So I'll have to find a smaller magnet for the arms. The torso, so I'm deciding whether, I think I could glue him together with the legs on and ship him like that. Sorry about the noise in the background. As one piece. Make this little head crest separate come off. He's got these really cool daggers that come off his hands like this. So I need to magnetize or / pin the arms because I could probably a good idea to make this a separate piece too. So yeah, I'm just pre-planning what I need to do so I can ship this and it gets to my client in one piece. Okay, I make this separable. I can do a pin in there, just do a pin, and do a pin in here. So I can pin this when he gets it and magnetize that in. There's 2 blades that come out of here. Those I'll probably pin and epoxy in. Okay. The skirts, this is the front skirt. No, this is the front skirt. Where's the front skirt? This is the front skirt. I'll magnetize that. Let's see, there's a side skirt over here. This guy, I believe, is the side skirt. Magnetize that. And then he's got let's see, hold on. That's the front. This is the back. What's in here? Oh, okay, hold on. I had this figured out the other day. It was on the side there, not that. That's the back. Is it that one? Nope. What is on the side? I meant to look at a picture. Front, back. The swords go there. That's not it. It's too big. The key is, oh no, that is it. Okay, that does go there. I thought the key's a little big. This one goes here. We can magnetize that. This goes on the side. And this one may be the side skirt. Nope. This is the side skirt. Okay. And then this is the shoulder armor here. So I can magnetize this and I'll be able to move around a little bit. Anyway, so I'm just pre-planning. So let me kind of get set up here and then we'll do some pinning and some stuff. Let's get this apart. Okay, so let's put that, I'm going to probably dress this side there. The dreads are the one that the parts I'm like really nervous about because they're really pointy. And again, his resin is very brittle. Okay. I can magnetize this arm first. No, I can't because I don't have the right size magnets. Okay, so I gotta wait till a couple hours before the hobby store opens up to go get magnets for this stuff. But I can do some pinning at least, or I'll magnetize these skirts. This is my brain working at full capacity. Okay, so let's work on this waist piece here. Let's get all the little stuff. Oh, he's got his little gun that picks in the back. And this guy. So I'll make this will come out. I'll pin and glue this guy into place. And that'll be one piece. Okay. And I have to dump my card here because it's getting full. I have to dump it. Okay, so let's magnetize this front skirt first. This little guy right here. So, watched me do this before. Not too difficult. And these aren't crazy heavy, so they don't need crazy big magnets. But we're going to basically use 2 drill bits. We're going to use one to kind of get a pilot hole. And then one to drill the magnet hole. So this side, it doesn't matter, but this is a 1/4 inch. So this is a 1/4 inch on the size of the magnet. This is just we'll do a 3/32. Again, the size doesn't matter on the small one. It's just to kind of get an alignment. So I'm going to kind of eyeball it in the middle here. And just drill slow. Okay, it's like that. And then got some blue tack here. And I like to warm it up. You don't need a lot. You don't want too much because then it won't seat correctly, but you need enough so that when you push the piece in, it marks where the magnet's got to go. And I'm going to put this in there. And sometimes I'll use a Q-tip. I'll dampen it a little bit so it doesn't stick. And I'll push it in. So I just put a little saliva on the Q-tip so it doesn't stick to it. And now when I push this into place, I got the spot where the magnet goes. So then I take so there's 2 ways you can do this. Sometimes I'll mark it first with an X-Acto, because that can be a little more accurate. Let's come in here. And just right in the middle. Give it a couple twists. And let's see if it marked. It did. It's very, very subtle, but it's there. Just like that. So I'll do a few of these on camera. This is going to be the same process over and over again. It'll take a while to do all these because there's quite a few. Okay, now I'm going to switch to a 1/4 inch drill bit. And this may be too big. Let's see. I'm just going to go real careful, real slow. This is a new drill bit, so it's going to cut nicely. Ideally, use the biggest magnet you can for the part. I wouldn't mind stacking 2 of these on top of each other, so I got enough oomph. So now I like to test it and see if I can get 2 in there. Yeah, so I got enough room for 2. So that hole is drilled. And then we're gonna come here and we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna go real slow. Not sure how much that was out of focus. Probably all of it. Sorry, I didn't realize it was out of focus. Again, since this is brittle resin, you gotta go slow. Okay, there we go. And then I like to check, see how deep it is. Make sure I get 1 or 2 of these. These are really thin. These like go 1/16 inch magnets. So that's why I'm drilling it deep enough to put 2 in. Okay, so now I'm going to take a couple of these guys, and it just gives me more holding power. So I like to do my favorite way to keep magnets in is to use baby powder / talc powder and super glue. So I got just some cardboard. This is baby powder, or talc powder works too. Baking soda will not work. As soon as you hit it, the baking soda, the glue, it kicks off instantaneously. You don't want that. You need some time to work. And then I just use a toothpick. I'm gonna make my own little kind of super glue putty here. A little bit of baby powder. I got my magnets over here set up, ready to go. And I also like to use the backside of a tool or a drill bit just to, a drill bit works great because the backside is flat. I'll use one of these guys because it holds it and you can push it down. So if you look here, these will go good. And don't do what I did last time I was showing how to do magnets and put them in backwards. So I'm going to put it in. It goes just below the surface. Just perfect. So I'm going to put that in. And I'm going to use my super glue and baby powder mix to keep it in place. And I'm going to make it a little runnier. So I'll go down the edges a little bit. So super glue, many times it's a very brittle glue. So I know a lot of guys will use A's and stuff for magnets. I don't want to wait 24 hours for it to cure, so I use this slurry. I'm going to fill it in. I'm going to build it up a little higher than it needs to be, and I'm going to sand it smooth. And I don't like to use zip kicker on it because it just makes bubbles. So let that dry. Now the more baby powder or talc you put in it, the faster it'll kick off. So I made this a little on the runny side so it'll go down the sides of the magnet. So the hole's just slightly bigger. Because when the drill bit's turning, it kind of wobbles a little bit. So the hole's typically just a little bit bigger. See, it's already kicking off. Just about there. And then once it's dried all the way, I'll file this flat. See, it's dried already. It only took about 15 seconds. And this is metal, so it's going to kind of suck it down. You can use a sanding stick too. I tend to like to use a metal file because the magnet pulls it down and it kind of makes sure it's as flat. And I got a little bit on this up here, so we're going to take that off. Oop, and it pulled out. That's not good. See? Alrighty. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try this again. I'm going to put some glue down in there first. So the glue didn't get down around the magnet. So that's a good little snafu to show you. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to actually put this in first. I thought I'd get enough glue around down the sides for it to hold it, but obviously I didn't. So I'm going to fill the hole first. And then before that dries, put it in and let it ooze out. Just like that. Then we go back in and before that kicks off, smooth it over again. Did that kick off again? So you show us, it keeps going out of focus. I'm gonna lock my focus. There we go. So I got enough room on my card here to probably do 2 magnets on camera, and then I'll have to download and I'll continue. But that'll give me enough time to get the magnets I can in before I go to the hobby store and get more magnets. I want to get some more 1/2-inch magnets for the big stuff, for like the feet and the base. And like that might even be too big. Where'd those go? Got enough meat on there? Maybe not. I need to order some different size magnets. Okay. Just about kicked off. Let's try this again, and hopefully it's in there. You want to make sure this is kicked off before you start sanding with your file, otherwise it'll get super glue dry on your file, and your file's not good. All right, it stayed in that time. Yay! Okay, so there we go. There's one magnet. Alrighty, so now we want to make sure we put in, we don't mess with the polarity that I did last time. Okay. So it attracts that way. So I'm going to make sure, and then when I push in, so I'm going to put a dot on the side that I want to show. So I know that that attracts. So the dot attracts. Okay, perfect. And then I gotta switch my drill bit to that side. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'll put a little glue in there. Now I can't have this ooze out too much on this side because I won't be able to get in there and sand it. Now it goes below the surface a little bit, so I'm going to hold it here for a second while that kicks off. And then once I can pull this away, I can put a drop of super glue on top of this. Again, these aren't load bearing magnets, so these are just to hold the skirts in place, so they're not holding a ton of weight. If this is gonna be like something for like when I do the arms and stuff like that, I want the magnets to touch to get the most holding strength. Come on. It's not wanting to kick off. I'm going to hit a little bit of the kicker. If I can find it. Where's my zip kicker? There it is. Okay. Okay, so now, boom. It's got just enough pull to hold it in place. Perfect. Sits flat. And I'm going to put just a tiny little bit of just a cap off the top, sorry, just to kind of cap on top of the magnet. So just put a drop of glue in there, making sure it doesn't come above the edge of the resin, otherwise the piece won't fit back on. And I'm just gonna let that sit there and kick off on itself. Okay. So I did the easiest magnet first. And there we go. Perfect. Okay, so that one's done. We can do, let's do the back one. Do the same process. I actually wouldn't mind if I had some bigger magnets for this one. I think I have to find something. Ooh, there's actually, I just realized this. They put metal in the blades. Check that out. To reinforce it. Very nice. Okay, cool. I didn't realize that. I found out because my magnet was sticking to it. Let's see what else I do for a small magnet. I think that's 2. Like the head's gonna need one. I need some smaller magnets. I need some like not 1/4 inch, but maybe like 1/8 inch magnets would be really good for some of this stuff. Don't know if I can get those at my hobby store. I think 1/4 inch would be hold this in place just fine. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna get a small drill bit. Just kind of eyeball center. I'll show you another way I do this. I don't have the Vaseline. I need to get some Vaseline too. I'm out of Vaseline. Again, blue tack, warm it up a little bit, put it in there. Damp Q-tip, push it down. Give a little squeeze. Put the spot where it needs to go. Getting a little mark there. You can see it in that little white dot. It's hard to see, but it's there. Do that. Now, on the really big magnets, like the 1/2 inch magnets, I go up slowly and drill bit size because you don't want to take out the 1/2 inch, man. It pulls a lot of material out. So the next few days are going to be a messy process. The building process is messy. It's dusty. There's dust everywhere. Okay, there we go. And same thing on this side. So you hear that cracking noise? That's me going too fast and the resin wanting to chip out. Because the drill bit will grab it and want to pull it in. You gotta be real careful with the Narin resin. Okay, there we go. All right, same thing. Actually, I might try to stack 3 magnets on this. It's a little heavier piece. 1, 2, 3. I go a little deeper, I can get 4. And this gives me a little more grabbing power. If you're lucky, you'll see me drill a hole in my hand. I haven't done that in a while. All right, we're going to run out of disk space here in a minute, so I'm going to move quick. Same thing, make a little slurry. I should get low on super glue too. Put that up. Let that ooze out. Just gonna hold it in place while that kicks off. Okay. Since I had more baking powder in there, it kicked off pretty quick. Now that magnet may be sticking out a little bit. If that's the case, I've got to make sure that the next one in the body's recessed just a hair. That's sticking out just a little bit. That should be okay. It's not much. Thought I had the hole deep enough. It's just a hair too shallow. sanding stick here. Make that as flat as possible. See that gray pattern rest on the magnet being sanded? Sticking to it. Just fine. Okay, that's in there. Do the same thing on the other side. Stack 4 of them. Okay, so that is the side that attracts. Put a dot. So I know that that's the side that attracts. I'm going to do that. It should repel. Perfect. I'm going to double check that, make sure this hole's deep enough to do what I want to do. A little deeper. I want those to go below the surface just a little bit. Perfect, right there. Alrighty. Do the same thing. I'm going to make a slurry. Not too much that it comes above the surface in there. Okay. Perfect. Got just enough glue that it kind of came up a little bit. I'm going to zip kick this one. And just hold it there till it dries. And let's check. Perfect. Fits on nicely. Just enough strength to hold it, sits flat. Good to go. All right, so that's how you do magnets. Not the hardest thing to do, but you gotta just take your time, make sure you got the polarity set up right and everything lined up. So I'm gonna continue to do that on everything, and then I'll come back. All right, let's show you how I pin things. So I was gonna do a magnet on the shoulder armor, but I decided to do a pin instead. So it's removable. So when I ship this, my client can put that on there, and it's one less thing less chance of something breaking. So let's show you how I do that. It's pretty simple. It's kind of like doing magnets. Another one I'm going to pin instead of magnetize is this waist armor, I think. Yeah, so this has got a round key it really doesn't lend itself to magnetize. So we're gonna do that. Now this one's relatively easy because I can just kind of really guesstimate the center of these little round keys. See, my lens is a little dirty. Just don't want to stay focused. So I'm gonna guess this is a 3/32 inch drill bit, and I'm just gonna kind of eyeball the top center of this round key, and I'm just going to start real slow so it doesn't wander on me, and I can kind of get it to where I want just by moving the drill bit around. Okay, now we're right on the top there. And I want to go slow because I don't want to drill through this. I don't want to drill a hole in my finger, which I've done several times. Actually, no, it healed up from the last time I drilled a hole in myself. And I don't want to have to repair the skirt. So you can see I have my finger here, because if I tend to, you can, well, not on this resin so much, but on a softer resin, you can actually feel before it comes out the drill bit on the back side of the resin. This is a really, like I said, a brittle, tough resin, so it would just go through. But I can kind of guesstimate. So I'm going to kind of look here, and I can see that I'm just about all the way through. So I'm going to stop. All right. So on this one, again, since it's a round shape, the drill bit's just kind of naturally going to go right in the middle. I just push down on it. It's just kind of going to find center. And then we're just going to go slow. So I went through, but it's underneath the leg key, which is no big deal because it's going to be hidden by the leg. You're not going to see that. So no big deal. Alrighty. So I've got some 3/32 inch brass rod right here. This one's going to be our pin. And I like to make my pins as long as possible without causing issues. So I'm just going to do a quick test fit. I'm going to put that in there. And slide that down. And I can see that I need to, and the great thing about brass is that it's relatively flexible. I can bend this a little bit. Okay, it's a pretty tight fit. So I'm going to I can see my hole is a little crooked, so I'm going to adjust it. Again, this isn't to be a super tight fit. You got gravity helping you hold this thing on. So the pin's way too long. I need to cut it down. I'll glue it here in a second. There we go. And I'm going to take it, once I glue this in, I'm going to bend it down a little bit, because right now I'm getting some interference on the side of on this side skirt here. So I'm just going to glue this in place. And it's actually in there pretty tight, but what I like to do is like to scuff up the pin. There's just some 100 grit sanding stick. I use super glue for these. I'm going to glue something to stick to. If you don't scuff it up, the glue's got nothing to stick to. And then I put a dab of glue on the pin. This is extra thick super glue. And then we're going to slide it in there and make sure it's seated really well. And then I'm going to clean up the excess with a Q-tip. Well, it stuck a little bit. Usually I'll dampen my Q-tip a little bit so it doesn't stick, but I didn't get enough on there. It got some cotton on there. It's not the end of the world. So I'm going to paint it anyway. And I'm going to zip kick that. And then we can put it back in and get it to fit better. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to bend it. You got to be careful with Narin resin. Again, it's brittle. So just be careful when you're bending things and putting pressure on it. Just like that. And then we'll test with the leg. And that's perfect. So again, it's kind of got that ball joint on there so it can move around a little bit, but again, it's just to keep it from falling off once it's on, just like that. Okay. Boom. So that's how you do that. Like a skirt, something easy. Now let's pin this leg, because this is going to get epoxied in eventually, and this is where you got to be a little more precise. And for that, I'll use a 5/32 inch rod, a nice thick brass rod. This is 5/32, and it's going to be similar processes to doing magnets. So sometimes, I don't do it too often, but on this one, I think I'm going to try and get dead center, because I'm working with a limited amount of space on the key. So in that case, I'll get a ruler out, or just a straight edge, doesn't have to be a ruler. And I'll find center. This will be by holding this in place. And connecting the corners. Just like that. And then again, I just got a small 3/16 inch drill bit to do a pilot hole. And then do the same thing with the blue tack. So the same process as magnets, instead of just magnets, using rods of metal to hold things in place. And you need that metal in there just to give it some more stability in the joint. By the time this is all glued together and everything, if anything were to break, the resin would break before the joint broke. Okay. And we give it a good push. Hopefully we got enough blue tack in there, and we do. You can see the little peg sticking out. And I'm going to use my drill bit this time. There we go. And now we got the... Okay, so now since we're going up quite a bit in size, I am going to kind of work my way up to a 5/32 inch drill bit. So I'm trying to get drill bits everywhere on my workbench, and I lose them. And these are a brand new set of drill bits. So let's go to a 1/8 drill bit, and just work your way up slowly to the size you want. And again, since this is, and you want these pretty deep. The drill bit's wobbling. I'm not sure why. I want this pin to go in to the thigh. So now when you're drilling these, make sure your drill bit's in really good, because I've gotten it to the point where I've gotten drill bits stuck and I can't get them out, which is a mess. So what happens is as you're drilling, the material isn't being excavated fast enough, and it expands. The drill bit will expand a little bit and it'll get stuck in the resin. So it heats up. So that's why I kind of pulsate. I pulse it. Okay, so now I know that pin isn't going in about that far. Okay. And now this one, I've got a lot of intersecting things coming on. I've got I've got the waste coming in there. So we'll see how far I can make this. I think this drill bit's bent. Not sure why it is, but it's wobbling. I also have Forstner bits that I'll use every once in a while if I've got enough room to use one, because that makes a nice flat circle on the bottom for magnets. I don't use them too often. Okay, so they're getting pretty far there. That's 1/8. Let's go up to 3/16. I could make smaller steps, but I don't think it's necessary. Now this rod is very thick, and we'll see. This is 3/16. Do I have this? Actually, might be enough. So in this case, the drill bit's wanting to pull itself into the hole. So I'm actually not pushing. I'm actually pulling back on it a little bit. It's grabbing enough material to actually want to pull itself in there, and I don't want it to do that. It's important to bring your drill bit out and get rid of all that material that builds up in there. So yeah, we're going in pretty far. Okay, so that's 3/16. Do I have 3/16? That looks like that might be big enough. I don't know if I do. Nope. 1/8 is, I go from 1/8 to 5/32. Oh, that's actually too big. Shit, I just made the hole too big. Alrighty, well, lesson learned. That's too big because I'm an idiot. So anyway, now when I glue this, I've got plenty of room to play. Okay, so don't do that. Make sure you drill the right size hole. So it's not the end of the world. It actually makes lining this up a little bit easier. So I have to cut some of this off. And sometimes, not that I did it on purpose this time, but I actually will. What I'll do sometimes is make the hole the right size for one side, and then make it a little bigger on the other side. So I've got some room to play when epoxying. It's like right now, it actually fits pretty good. There's enough. This will actually work pretty good, I think. There's enough resistance in there. That's going to hold nicely. So I think I will go ahead and epoxy this pin in place. And I'll use 5-minute epoxy for that. I won't use super glue. And then I'll work on bending this pin a little bit so this goes in all the way. Right now, it's not wanting to go in quite all the way. So you got this big old sorry, I'm off camera here a little bit. Okay. Work. I'll fit there nicely. Okay. So let's do that. Let's go and get this. Get this epoxied in, and you can see it's got a little bit of a bend in it to kind of fit better. And I might make that hole just a hair bigger on that end. Here we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna, it's got this, what you can do, since I got enough room, I'll come in here, actually, come in here, I'll make some cuts in the brass rod like this. And you gotta be careful because we'll actually bend it. And this will give me some teeth for the epoxy to stick into. Okay, perfect. Yeah, okay, perfect. Alrighty. So it's a happy little accident making that hole too big. 5-minute epoxy up here. I just keep a bunch of scrap cardboard around. I just cut up boxes as they come in. And use this, actually, here's one here. I had from something I just finished. I just mix stuff up on cardboard. So the brand of epoxy doesn't matter. My wife hates the smell of the BSI epoxy that I get from the hobby store. She's like, what does that smell? So it doesn't bother me. The brand doesn't matter. This is DEFCON. I got this at, I don't know, probably Lowe's or Home Depot. This is way too much epoxy, but I would like to have more than not enough, because you don't want this stuff to start kicking off and you not be prepared. And then you want some alcohol ready to go. So just some alcohol ready to go to clean up, and just mix this up really well. Yeah, so today's a build day. Tomorrow will be, we'll see how far I get today building. Hopefully tomorrow I'll get everything else done. I'll get some primer on it. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of seam line fixing, because it looks really clean. But again, until you get primer on it, you don't know. This mixes it really good. Tricky part is going to be the dreads, finding out where they go, and then making sure I can label them later. I'm going to cut this thing up really good. I like to kind of bob it up and down, because what happens is you get air in there. You really want to fill all the void with epoxy. Okay, and I'm just going to go over my trash can here and kind of clean this up a little bit. Get some alcohol on a Q-tip, because it's going to drip a little bit. And we'll let that sit for, it's a 5-minute epoxy, which means it starts to set off in 5 minutes, which actually, depending on how much you have mixed up, will depend how fast it kicks off. The more you have mixed up, the faster it kicks. It has an exothermic reaction, meaning as it heats up, it kicks off faster. So we got a nice amount of epoxy in there. I'm gonna let this cure for a good 10 minutes, and then we'll put it back in the key and get it lined up again. Okay, so the epoxy's dried, and I went back in and I refitted the pin. You can see it's got a little bit of a bend in there. That's just what you need to do to get to fit. And now pressure fits, and it's not going to come out. And that's a really good fit. So later on, when I go to epoxy this after I get the painting done, I'll be able to put just a little, I don't need a ton of epoxy, just be able to put a little bit of epoxy in there, push these together. Really good pressure fit. And then it'll be a solid piece. So I'm going to do the same thing to this leg, and then we'll see how it fits on the base. Okay, so I'm just doing some dry fitting here. Now I have one of the legs pinned. What I'm finding is that now that I have that leg pinned and in the right position, I might have to do some Aves work on this other leg. So if this foot sits flat, it's in the key correctly. So that's like a good, you kind of have to when you're lining stuff up, kind of get a starting point. So get that foot in, get this lined up. So now I put this in and I want this foot to be flat. So I want the feet flat. That's like the most important part. When I go to put this part in, there's a little bit of a gap under there that I'm not digging. If I take this out of the base, this wants to kind of sit back more. So what I think we're going to do is, and I don't think I need to pin this part, to be honest. This key is really, really good and deep. So I don't think I need a pin there. I think epoxy by itself will be fine. So I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to finish getting it else pinned, and I'm going to kind of clamp the feet down on the base. And I'm going to make sure that they're flat. That's what I want. I want to make sure that they're flat on the base. And I may do a little bit of sculpting work on the back side of this thigh. So if I get these into place where I want, make sure the feet are flat. It's there. What it looks like it needs to happen, there's no room to do it, is that this foot needs to rotate, but there's no way to rotate it. So this leg's in the right position. Okay. So I'm just thinking here. Yeah, I think I want to do that. That little gap's bugging me. That shouldn't be there. So I'm going to get some Vaseline. I'm going to slather this leg in Vaseline, and then I'm going to do some Aves work up in here and just kind of resculpt while it's on the base. Do some putty work, sculpting work to get that to fill that gap in on the thigh. I'll have to go back and what I'll have to do is I'll have to put that in. I'll have to let it set up for a couple hours, and I'll go back in and kind of resculpt some of the skin texture. And I'm not a sculptor, but since it's on the back side, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. But again, I just want to make sure that fits well. There's no gaps. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so this is just me working through my thought process. I change plans all the time. I think I'm going to go ahead and I thought I was going to paint this and then glue it on. I think I'm safer to go ahead and epoxy this leg on, get that set up, make sure that that's locked into place where it needs to be, and then work on getting this to fit a little bit better. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think that's a smart thing. I'll have a little more masking to do later, which is not that big deal. It's easy to mask off a leg, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get this epoxied. Get that in there. Since it fits well, I'm going to scuff up this this peg. And that way, if I get any ooze out, the thing about epoxying after you paint is if you get ooze out on your paint job, you're screwed because you're going to take paint off. So ideally, I try to do as much epoxying before painting just to avoid the possibility of damaging my paint. And yeah, I think that's just the smarter thing to do. So let's do that. Again, we're gonna mix up some epoxy here. Now, the one thing I don't like about the DevCon, I like it because it's clear, but I don't like it because both the hardener and the resin are clear. So sometimes I'll get distracted and I'll forget which one I put down first. It's like, shit, I forgot which one I put out first, and then I'll have to throw away what I that put out. A lot of times resins will be, or epoxies will be yellow. You'll have a clear, well, one will be labeled hardener, one will be labeled resin. One is yellowish in tone, so it's, when you're mixing it, you'll know which one you started with. And then also helps you with your mixing ratios if you're not using a measuring cup. Like I don't use a measuring cup. I just kind of put a dot down of one and then kind of match that same size dot. Now this is going to start to kick off here pretty quick because I got a decent amount of it out. But I'll have a little ooze out. I'm going to clean it up. So I like to kind of get it, I want to make sure it goes down in the hole where the pin is. And use a toothpick to kind of pop the air bubbles that form. And then make sure I got enough here, and then this should give me enough. I should get enough ooze out. This will be a nice strong joint. Again, I mix way too much up, but again, I'd rather have too much than not enough. And we're gonna give this a really good squeeze. Looks like I had just the right amount because I'm not getting any ooze out around the edges. I'm actually gonna hold this in place tightly while this cures up, and so I'll come back after about 10 minutes. Okay, so I got that leg epoxied in place. I've got everything around the skirt. Magnetizer pin, you missed it, but I did drill a hole in my finger. I didn't get it caught on camera, but it was bound to happen. Sorry, I'm just drinking my shake. I was pinning these samurai scabbards. I'm assuming that's what you call them. And so I was getting it all lined up, and I had my finger on the back side, and the drill, they grabbed the resin and sucked it right through. That's what happens usually. And I wasn't going too fast, so I was trying to get this all lined up, and yeah, drilled a hole in my finger. Lucky me. So now I'm gonna show you how this goes together. Okay, so this part gets pinned there, and this one gets stacked on top of it. So you got two of these sheaths, scabbards, I'm not sure what you call them, and they get pinned in the side here. And I have to cut that pin down. So now to fix that little hole, I'll do that with some Aves. It's not the end of the world, but yeah, it wouldn't be a complete build if I didn't drill a hole in my finger or my hand. That's just how it goes. I'm going to cut this a little shorter. I'm sticking out just a hair. And then what I like to do is, this isn't going to be glued on. It's going to be something that my client has to take off and put on. I like to file this where I cut it. I like to file this to a round point, just to take off any sharp edges, and just so it makes it easier to insert into the key, or the hole that I made for it. So I'm just using a low grit sanding stick, and since it's brass, it sands pretty easily. So what I'm going to do for the feet is I'm going to get everything clamped in place, and I am going to go ahead, and I think I'm going to go ahead and get this all clamped and get this leg epoxied on. Again, I'll just have more masking later, but I'd rather deal with this now than after paint. Get this epoxied where I want it, and then I'll go back in and fill the gaps in with Aves. So sometimes you have a plan, and sometimes you got to adjust that plan. Let's see. Well, this did fit together nicely. Oh, because I have them going this way. be a little shorter still. It's a nice fit though. These two will be glued together after I paint them. It's a tight fit right now. Cut this down a little bit shorter. It's still sticking out of hair. I can feel it. And I'll sand it down again. I thought I cut enough off. I had a big file. I don't have like a big flat. Oh, I do have. I haven't used them all. They're over here. I gotta have the test. I haven't used these for. I need a big flat file to file this down. There we go. And now slide in there nicely. Perfect. All right, so we got the waist all pinned and magnetized, looking good. Got that leg epoxied in. I'm gonna clamp these feet down. I like to do a dry run through of what I'm gonna do before I do any gluing. So let's put all these to the side. These have been pinned and magnetized. So since I'm gonna be epoxying this piece, I want to make sure I've got some alcohol in a container that I can get to quickly. To the side. Zoom out. And let's see if hopefully I can clamp this foot down. I may have to do it. Let's see. So I want to make sure the feet are flat on the base. So I clamp that down. Again, being Narin resin, I can't clamp too hard because I could damage it. So that foot's flat. Okay. As long as I can clamp this foot flat. Oops, see? I'm getting too crazy with it. Maybe I don't need to clamp it. I think I'm overthinking this. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to epoxy this and just hold the feet down while I do it. I'm not going to try to get too much epoxy where I get ooze out. So I'm going to be able to hold those feet down for, 10 minutes or so while it dries. Again, I'm not pinning this one. I don't think I need it. Again, if anything were to break on this, the resin would break before the glue joint. And then by the time I'm done with this anyway, I'm going to fill in the gaps with Aves. I'll just help, it'll strengthen the joint. So I've got some sculpting to do that. I wasn't planning on, but that's how it goes sometimes. I got some epoxy here. Now, I say this, but I definitely will leave the upper torso separate until I'm done painting. I'd actually really like to magnetize that, but I think it's too heavy for a magnet, to be honest. We'll see. Maybe if I use a 1/2-inch magnet. If I got enough meat in there, I could magnetize it. I'd really like to keep that separate if possible. Okay. Got a few people very excited that I'm doing a Predator kit. I'm excited to be doing a Predator kit. I just haven't, someone said I was trying to avoid it. I really haven't avoided it. Like I said, I don't paint for myself, so unless someone hires me to do it, I just don't do it. Okay. That should be enough. I'm gonna get a little bit of ooze out, so now I need to put these down and get the keys lined up. Let's get everything else out of the way. Because as this cures, I'm gonna have to clean up a little bit. If I got just the right amount of epoxy, I won't get any dripping. Okay, looks good. Pretty good. I'm not going to really force this key into place. My main goal on this is to make sure the feet are flat on the base so I can take them straight off on and off the base. I'm getting a little bit of ooze out there. So I'm actually going to kind of hold them this way a little bit. So that'll epoxy go back up in there. Yeah, it's a decent gap there. Now that I got everything kind of put together. So this is a good example of why I wouldn't want to glue the legs on first and then try to put them on the base. Because if I did that, then the keys on the base wouldn't line up with the feet. So it's a good idea to just spend enough time making sure that things line up. There's a little bit of epoxy on the boot there, but I can actually cut that off here in a little bit. And I got this over here to the side. This is kind of like, I can kind of see where it is in the curing process just by the epoxy that's on my cardboard. It hasn't quite started to kick off yet. So if right now what happens is this wanting to lean. The sculpt wants his legs to lean backwards, but in order to get things lined up, it actually needs to rotate. His hips need to rotate forward a little bit. So I'm just tilting this a little bit because I got a little bit of epoxy wanting to drip down his boot. And it's not the end of the world. As long as I can get it before it fully cures, I can actually cut most of that off. So I'll have some sculpting to do on his thigh and maybe a little bit on the boot to close up that gap in the back, but hopefully it's not too bad. And it's in a spot you really don't see too much, so. Oops, I don't want to keep that in the key. Don't want that to pop out. All right, so we're gonna hold it in place for a while and we'll come back once it's cured. Okay, so this glue is just about kicked off all the way and it's wobbling just a little bit. So I still have the time in there to kind of play with the alignment of this leg. So I'm twisting it just a little bit to try to get it to sit a little bit easier. It comes out of the base nicely, easily. This foot is sitting flat. This foot is sitting flat. I'm just seeing if I can twist it just a little bit. Again, I can't use too much force on this because I don't want to crack anything, but that's pretty good. What I will do is once this is completely cured, I will put a pin in this foot. I'm not going to put a pin. It only needs one pin really just to kind of keep it from wanting to fall out. And actually, it probably doesn't need a pin at all, but these are heavy kits. There's a lot of weight to this guy. So especially with his pose, him leaning forward kind of like this. So I'll do is I'll put a pin in the foot there and I'll show you how I do that here in a second. Once this is fully cured and I'm happy with all this, how all this lines up. Okay, so I got the legs epoxied on. Now I've been working on, I'm gonna put a magnet in the waist and hopefully this will be strong enough to hold this in place. I'm thinking it will. So first thing I did is I drilled my corresponding holes in the bottom here and here. These are 1/2 inch. I started out small and I worked up. I literally used every single drill bit in my set, starting with 1/16, working all the way up to 1/2 inch. It takes a while, but with this resin, I was actually surprised this didn't crack out at all because it's quite a jump from a 3/8 to a 1/2 inch, but we got there. I got the, and I used epoxy, 5-minute epoxy on this magnet, okay? So we have this one in. I've got the hole in this one. Now I've got some Vaseline here, and hopefully these holes line up. I've got some Vaseline. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and I'm going to cover this magnet and this key like so. And I don't care about getting Vaseline to work because this is all going to get washed later before I do any priming or anything. So I put a lot on. Okay. And then I take my corresponding magnet over here, just let it pop on. And now, if I've done everything right, this should line up in there. I'm going to do a test fit. And it feels like it is going to go down. So I'm not going to push it all the way down yet because it may not be 100% lined up. But the reason I do it this way is because many times the key, the male part of the key, doesn't touch the bottom of the female key. It's not quite long enough. And when I'm doing something like this where I want as much strength, I want the magnets to touch. So there's a good chance that after I glue this magnet in, it's going to stick out a little bit down there. So I'm going to take this off again. It's really strong. This should be plenty strong enough. I'm going to wipe it off just for a second. Just want to make sure it's going to go down in the hole. I'm going to actually scuff up the edges of this magnet with some sandpaper. Again, I want a little scratch in it so the glue has something to stick to. So I'm just using a fine sanding sponge. You want the metal to have a scratch in it just for added strength and such. Okay. Like so. Because what you don't want to do is glue your two pieces together. So again, I'm going to, since I took that off, and go ahead and put some more on here just so I have it. I'm going to put that on there. Now I'm going to use, I use some thick CA to start with. And hopefully it's just enough to get the magnet and hold it in place. Again, I'm just going to really make sure I've got that covered really well. If I get a little ooze out, I don't want it to get stuck. Okay. Okay. I'm pushing that down into the hole. And I'm just going to let it sit there for a while, and then I'll come back in about, I'll probably let it sit for a good minute or two just to make sure that that magnet's in the hole and the glue is setting. Okay, so after about a minute or so, I was able to pull these apart, and you can see that the magnet down there is a little raised and it's not quite flat, but that means it's okay because now that these magnets touch, and I get maximum holding power, and that's going to be plenty to hold him on. I can turn him upside down, and he's not going to come out. So I can magnetize this, and this can ship separately now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some thinner, and I'm going to wipe off the Vaseline that got on this magnet and inside the key on those sides. I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to put in some 5-minute epoxy to really lock that magnet in, because right now it's just got CA, and CA is very brittle, and this is going to have a lot of pull on it because these are really strong magnets. The 1/2 inch are crazy strong. So I'm just going here and cleaning up the Vaseline that I used to keep them from sticking together. blow that out. And that Vaseline trick I use all the time for putting magnets in, so it's another way I do it. I mix up a little 30-minute epoxy, or they're not 30-minute, 5-minute epoxy. And I know I can basically, as long as my epoxy doesn't come over the top of that magnet, I'm good. Piece will still fit in there. And I got my little piece of cardboard over here he's been using for mixing up. So this will probably be the last little demo I do for this work in progress, this part of the work in progress. This is just adding magnets and pinning. And it's going to be the same process over and over again for the arms and the hands and all the dreads and everything like that. So I think you get the idea of what I'm doing for those who watch, for the 3 people that will watch and comment. So I'm going to take this epoxy and I'm going to put it down and make sure it goes down. There's a little bit of I made the whole, a hair bigger for the magnet, so I had a little room to wiggle around. I put it in there. And I want this epoxy to go around down the sides of the magnet, really, where I have those scratches where I scratched it up. I'm trying to avoid getting any on the top of the magnet. I can go and clean any of that off with some alcohol in a second. Just like that. Okay. So once that's cured, this magnet is not going to come out. And I'm going to take a little alcohol on a Q-tip. I'm just going to clean the top of the magnet off a little bit. Just like that. All right, so once that's cured, the waste is magnetized. So I'm going to sign off for now. Once I get everything pinned and magnetized, we'll come back and take a look at it all together. All right, continuing on with the prep on the Shadow Elixir. Did a little live broadcast this morning working on pinning the dreads. Finally got that done. Took about 3.5 hours to get the dreads pinned. So basically the morning, a good part of the morning. So I'm going to show you how this all goes together. So we got the base. This is going to be a separate part. Everything's fitting nicely. And then we've got the back skirt, which is magnetized, like that. And then we've got the front skirt, which is magnetized, like that. And then we've got the side skirt magnetized like that. This side skirt's got a pin in it. It says it's got this kind of round key. It's just easier to put a pin in it. And it just slides in like that. And then we've got the 2 sheaths or whatever. That's going to go in like this, pinned in like that. Then we've got the sword on the side, right here, this guy. That's got a 3/32 inch brass rod. And that pins in like that. So that's the assembly of the bottom half, just like that. Now, we've got all the dreads pinned in. There's 20 of them. And they all have a very specific spot. Got this magnetized with a 1/2 inch magnet. Same on the waist. So this is how it's all going to ship in all these pieces. The dreads, I'm not going to glue in and ship with them in. I think they would just get, I don't know how I would do it, to be honest. Unless I can, me and my client can chat about it. I would like to glue them in and ship them in because it's you have to put them in a certain order and each one goes in a specific hole. But they look great. It's got a lot of motion in the sculpt that goes in. You can really see that's whipping his head around. And then we've got this arm over here. These 2 blades are pinned, but I'll probably glue these in and they'll ship like this. I'm debating whether or not I'm going to, I pinned both hands to him, but debating whether or not I should glue the hands in and ship them with the hands in, or if I should ship them separately. They got a nice long 3/32 inch brass rod in there for a pin, and they fit nicely. So just like that. And then that magnetizes in just like that. His arms have got a little play in it. That's okay. I'm not too worried about it. And then his shoulder armor, again, 1/32 inch brass rod. Goes in like that. I could probably glue that on and ship that with the armor on. Probably do that. I think that'll ship fine. We'll wrap it up good enough. And then that magnetizes on just like that. Looking really, really good. And then we've got his left arm. Again, got a magnet, 1/4 inch magnet. Goes in like that. Again, this hand's got a pin in it. Deciding whether or not I want to ship that with the hand in. I'm thinking it's probably smarter to ship with the hands out and let him just pin when he gets them. And then on his head, this will be a separate piece because it's pretty thin. It's got a 1/16 inch brass rod for a pin. Slides right in, just like that. And then, what else we got left? And we got his little cannon gun thing that goes over his shoulder. These are 2 pieces. I've got them pinned. I could leave them separate. That way, if he wants to point this in a different direction for whatever reason, he can. 16th inch brass rod in there for a pin. That'll go in here just like this. And the hole's a little off center, so you got to kind of move it around to find. There it goes, just like that. So that little cannon, you can move it around if he wants. Just like that. And the last 2 pieces are some ornamental, like trophy / jewelry. So it's like a vertebrae of a couple guys he's killed. And those have been pinned. And these will have to, I'll have to label these. They actually do have a specific side. I think this one goes over here. I'll take this off for a second. Where is it? There it goes. Like that. And just like, it's a pretty snug fit. I got a little bit of putty work up in there. And there you go. So, a full day and a half just to get them together. Okay, so he's looking really good. So, the only thing I've got to do now is I got to do my putty work, which I'll go in with the Aves and do that. And what I've got to do is I got a little chip out here under his foot. There's like a little spot of the base that sticks up that chipped out when I was trying to force the foot down. So I'll probably sand that spot smooth on the base and sand that just so it doesn't chip out after paint. The only real putty work I have is under the leg. I've got to putty this spot right here where I drilled through. I'm not seeing any other gaps that are just sticking out. Once he's all together, I think this looks really good. So I'm going to spend the rest of the afternoon puttying it. Excuse me, burping. Puttying and burping is going to be the rest of the day. Getting the putty work done. I'll show that here in a second. I'll get them all apart. And then we'll show doing some putty work in there with Aves and puttying this with Aves. And I can wash everything else and kind of get those parts in primer. And then we'll look at if there's any surface prep. So I'm going to call this work in progress done. This is the pinning and magnetizing part of the build. And it's all done. So I went over how to add magnets, how to pin, how not to drill through your finger, which I did, but I didn't show you. And then the next work in progress will be the final prep will be the putty work and priming and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll just call this work in progress done. It's gonna be long already. And but there you go. That's how you assemble a garage kit. And this is a very good garage kit that fits very good. Yeah, so pretty smooth sailing, even though it took a full day and a half, just basically because the dreads took a full morning just to get those situated and figured out. And I broke in the first 3 dreads I was doing, I broke 2 of them trying to get them in there. So I got a little bit of putty work to do on those to fix some chip outs and stuff. But man, this is a fantastic looking piece. Narin killed it. He's such a great sculptor. A lot of motion. So there you go. End of work in progress number 1. Stay tuned for number 2. Thanks for watching. Bye.